My mom, my wife, and I are going to live together from now on. So, it's not appropriate for you to be here. I want you to leave.
On the anniversary of my dad's death, John, who backed home, said these words to me. There seemed to be no regret on his face. While gently putting her hand on my mom's shoulder, Samantha said,
"It seems like she feels happier living with us."
Smiling with satisfaction, she said,
Luna has hurt me many times before. I want to keep my distance myself from you now.
She gave a sharp look to me. I looked at the house my dad left behind. I was hurt by my brother and mother's attitude. Enough, right? I muttered to myself. Eventually, they would come to deeply regret their actions. My name is Luna. I'm 28 years old and work as an illustrator in the city. As a child, I was curious and loved to play. However, as I progressed through elementary school, my dad began comparing me with my brother. In middle school, I doubted my own worth. My dad were always kind to me, and he'd say,
"You're truly considerate and wonderful."
In contrast, she seemed dislike about me.
You spoil the atmosphere in our home. John is always so cheerful. He can make a cozy ambience.
Actually, she often praised John and treat me coldly. He didn't seem to care much for me either.
If you disappear from this house, how reassuring it would be.
I kept making an effort every day, hoping to earn their approval. But my efforts were not recognized. I tended to be absent from high school and eventually gave up on college. For friend I met online introductions, I found work as an artist. Surprisingly, my artwork was well received. The internet has made my works more popular. By the time I was 22, I had earned the trust of many clients. My work was going well. Seeing my success, my dad praised,
"Your artwork is amazing. You are professional. You can draw this well."
Even though I spent a quiet life at home, I was so happy to feel that people were pleased with my work. However, it's difficult to seek an understanding for my work, especially from my mother. She was always critical.
You can say a member of society about yourself for the fittest time if you work outside, not home. I think illustrating is just a hobby to pass time.
She denied my job easily. That was my livelihood. After graduating from a top university, my brother stood out at the business world. He always spoke with a sense of superiority, taking pride in his success.
Illustrating isn't really a stable source of income, right? On the other hand, my business gained over $1 million annually. I'm also in the process of buying a luxury apartment in the city center.
I stopped sharing my feelings and situations with my mom and brother. I relied on my dad's understanding more than anything else. As time passed, my brother got married and moved into the luxurious apartment he bought.
You don't give us living expenses, so at least you need to help housekeeping.
My mom, who didn't housekeeping from the beginning, began to go away from her daily routines. As a result, her unhealthy lifestyle led her to gradually gain weight. Even though my dad occasionally gave her warnings,
Remember when Luna skipped school? I faced with a difficult problem then too. I want to take a break once in a while.
so, little by little, the family did not say their opinions to her. My job, which is related to design, often required me to work through the night. When I tried to rest during the daytime,
Luna, don't be a lazy bum. There's a delivery for you. Don't count too much on us.
such harsh criticisms became a part of my daily life. Even when I achieved a stable income, my mom's attitude showed no signs of change. And then, tragedy occurred to our family. My dad suddenly passed away due to a subarachnoid hemorrhage. One morning, when he didn't get up as usual, I found him lying still, having passed away peacefully. I witnessed this scene and was tormented by a deep sense of loss and shock, unable to recover from the grief for weeks.
We need to think about Dad's inheritance. It seems there's no will, so we should proceed according to legal procedures.
He began speaking in a calm tone. He didn't seem to be sad.
Don't worry, Mom. I'll handle all the procedures related to the inheritance. Luna probably isn't familiar with these matters, so I'll fully support her.
Her words, though spoken with a smile, lacked genuine concern and consideration for us. Meanwhile, Mom seemed to have no choice but to accept the situation, took for granted for my brother's family said. Especially the documents provided by Samantha, and the advice of the lawyer they trusted seemed right to her, and she appeared to have no doubts. I had been holding on to a bank book under my dad's name even while he was alive. I thought holding this book has some meaning, so making it hard to use easily. There was advice about changing the name on the account from the lawyer, but taking that step felt like distancing myself forever from my dad. I'll handle it soon, I told our lawyer and left it untouched. Even after that, I continued to deposit $1,800 as living expenses into that account every month. just as I did when my dad was alive. Because every time I transfer money to his account, I felt like my dad was watching over me, cheering.
You've grown up splendidly. Also do something to contribute to society.
The account was originally used for daily expenses and public utility payments, and it was also linked to Mom's credit card. Mom used the card daily, but it was clear that she didn't know which account the money was being debited from. Though a new daily life for just Mom and me began, Mom's behavior gradually became more hedonistic. She was in a bad behavior when she is with boys. It disrupted her life's rhythm. I need to do daily work and housekeeping instead of Mom, so increasing my burden. Mom often went out and would come home boasting about the prizes she'd won from playing casino. However, on the flip side, when she was in a bad mood, she often vented her stress and frustrations at me. Especially at night, Mom drank large amount of alcohol. Concerned, I gently warned her, "Mom, maybe you should drink a bit less." But she'd react sensitively and lash out.
Don't bother me. You can't understand at all. You should just thanks to me that you can even stay in this house, even though you couldn't even attend school properly.
And she strongly rejected my opinion. Almost every night, she'd drink too much to move, and I'd end up cleaning up after her. Juggling a full-time job, daily housekeeping, and supporting Mom's erratic lifestyle was both physically and mentally taxing for me. One day, I realized it was almost a year since Dad passed away. Then, my brother, who hadn't seen for a while, visited our house and said,
Mom, you seem a bit down. Are you okay?
I suspect that my mom's poor complexion might be due to liver damage from excessive alcohol consumption. However, she tried to hide such health issues from others, making an effort to act cheerful.
Ever since Dad passed away, I haven't been feeling well.
She elaborated to my brother.
That sounds tough. But you have Luna by your side, right? Is she supporting you well?
Luna is a bit unique. She doesn't seem to have much of a filial spirit. I can't know what she's thinking about.
She left a critical comment about my character and actions. Hearing their conversation, I felt both ashamed and sad by the atmosphere and my mother's words, almost cry. However, I thanked Mom, so I couldn't express my displeasure. Moreover, my brother seemed to agree with her opinion.
Agree. Luna is a bit unique.
He said, and my mother nodded in agreement. Then he gently held my mother's hand and, with a serious look, said,
Mom, I have some idea. I intend to discuss it properly on Dad's first death anniversary. So please wait until then.
With those somewhat ominous words, he left the house. My brother's caring attitude made my mom happy for a few days, and she appeared to be fine. I prepared for our dad's first death anniversary, with no help from Mom. Then, my brother and his wife arrived. I was busy for preparations, but she just watched me, sat next to my mom, and began to gently massage her shoulders.
Please take a rest now. It's going to be a long day. Oh, you get stiff shoulders.
Thank you, Samantha. Luna doesn't really help me much.
Really? I felt just living with Luna and no one else, especially with your health issues, might be quite tough.
I was in the kitchen preparing the meal, but I overheard their conversation and it made my heart race. At that moment, my brother stood in front of me and said,
Actually, about the future.
pausing for a moment before continuing.
From now on, I and Hazel live here with Mom. So, I'd like you to find another place to live.
Shocked, I looked over at my mother, but she was looking away without saying a word. Filling the silence, Samantha said,
It seems that our mom also thinks it's better to live with us.
She said, with a slightly proud smile. I realized that they had been conversations and had some plans that I was unaware of. I felt as if I'd been struck on the head upon discovering facts and schemes that had been hidden from me until then. She looks very confident, she continued.
Because of Luna, I've been put in countless difficult situations. So I think it's natural for me to distance myself from such a useless child.
As her words ended, her eyes stared at me, releasing a sharp gaze. This gaze struck my heart more than her words did. Gazing lovingly at my late dad's house, I asked, Dad, am I making the right choice? I felt like I had been living under the pressure of always trying to meet my mother's expectations and continuously striving for her. However, this incident gave me the opportunity to see new hope and live in a way that was true to myself. With all three of them directing critical gazes at me, in that oppressive atmosphere, I confidently declared, Understood, I'll leave here. At those words, my mom, brother, and Samantha were very surprised at the moment.
Seems you've grown a bit.
He said to me arrogantly. Determined to keep a positive attitude, I took his hand gently and asked, John, can I trust you with Mom? With a slightly surprised look, my brother shook hands with me. My mom looked on with a mix of astonishment and a bit of confusion. I ended my father's memorial service quietly and immediately went to a real estate agency. I liked a one-bedroom apartment with a spacious window and a great view at first sight and decided to buy it. While my mom seemed surprised at my actions, I was already frequently communicating with my work colleagues online and was more socially active. Thanks to the helpful advice from many friends regarding preparations and adjustments for my new life, I was able to make plans go smoothly. A few days after I left, it seemed that John and Samantha also moved into that house. After that, I cut off all contact with them and genuinely enjoyed living alone in a downtown apartment. I spent time for myself, focusing on hobbies and work. However, 2 months later, I received a call on my smartphone from my mom.
Luna, can I tell you something? Something troubling has happened.
At that time, I was in the office discussing a project. However, without considering my busy situation, my mom began to share her concerns. From her voice, I could clearly sense her urgency and confusion. She said that Samantha was neglecting her daily work, pushing the housework onto my mother.
Is Samantha being naive? I can't believe how dusty our house has become.
Actually, I've been vacuuming almost daily and wiping the windows. I've also been maintaining the garden.
Really? That's why it's been so clean. I was wondering why the weeds in the garden had grown so suddenly.
I usually take care of the flowers over the weekends. That might be why.
I see. I was always wondering why.
During this conversation, it seemed that my mother was realizing for the first time that I had been diligently maintaining both the inside of the house and the garden for many years.
Luna, there's something I've been wondering about. Do you know about the passbooks from the A&T banks that were under your father's name? I recently tried to use them, but for some reason, I couldn't make a withdrawal. Also, the related cards seem to be unusable.
Oh, about that. Actually, I've processed it and had those accounts transferred to my name. So, you shouldn't be able to transact under the old name anymore. Upon hearing this, my mother exclaimed in surprise.
What? Why were they suddenly changed to your name? Those were accounts managed by your father for a long time, right?
Taking a deep breath, I continued to speak as calmly as possible to calm her shock and confusion. You might not remember, but when we divided the inheritance, we agreed that the assets of those accounts would be assigned to me. The documents from when we spoke with the lawyer should clearly state this. For a moment, I could hear the sound of my mother flipping through a pile of papers.
It's here. I didn't notice at all.
Actually, after Dad passed away, I should have changed the name on that account immediately, but I felt that if I did, it would be like erasing Dad, so I emotionally left it as it was. My dad always talked about the future, preparing for the unforeseen by diversifying assets across 4 different banks and a post office. Of those, funds from 2 selected banks went to my brother, and the post office portion was left to my mother. Additionally, my mother inherited land and the house we were living in.
So does that mean this asset can no longer be used in this family? I believe there was over $180,000, and there was a monthly transfer of $1,600 from your father's investments and other sources.
It seemed that my mother was shocked to realize she had lost this relied upon funding. Mom, that monthly $1,600 transfer was from me. It was part of my business, and since it was under the company name, you might not have realized it was from me. But we've talked about this before. I had established my own business, and that $1,600 was given out as a cost related to my office and work. I was using part of this house for my office, so I recorded it as rent and other expenses. It seemed my mother either completely forgot or chose to interpret it in a way that suited her.
Huh? So you mean the $1,600 won't be transferred to us anymore, and there's no $180,000?
There was a mixture of disappointment and surprise in her voice, like she was placing her last hope in it. I responded calmly to convey the truth. Exactly. I said the fact clearly and assertively. At that moment, I heard an irritated voice from Samantha from behind.
Mom, are you still on the phone? How long do you talk? The call's gonna cost a lot. Please start cleaning the bathroom. You're completely useless.
I was so surprised at the sudden change in Samantha's attitude and couldn't understand what was happening.
Oh, okay, I'll go now.
She then continued talking to me.
Once my assets are gone, she acts this way. Do you think it's acceptable? It seems Samantha believed I still had some assets, and when her expectations weren't met, her attitude changed.
Thinking back to my mother's past actions, it was hard to sympathize with her.
Luna, please. You see I am in trouble, right? If you can you continue the transfers? But this time to a post office account under my name. I'm really in trouble. Please.
I took a moment and then replied with a deep sigh. Mom, seeing how you acted the moment you realized I had extra funds, it feels like you're no different from Samantha. Are both of you acting similarly? I clearly conveyed what I felt. There was a moment of silence as my mom seemed to be lost for words. Take care then. Value your life with your brothers. I ended the call. However, in the hours that followed, a stream of notifications from my mom arrived on my phone. Analyzing their content, it seemed my brother had made a significant blunder in his business. He had used up even the inheritance our dad left behind, and still couldn't recover. He had to give up his luxury apartment and seemed to flee back to our family home. The backdrop my brother had once talked about thinking about our life seemed far from the truth. Every day, debt collection notices came to the house, and my brother seemed to drown in alcohol or become engrossed in gambling, as if trying to escape this reality. Samantha's attitude also seemed to change, and she often said,
Because of your son, I'm going through all this. You should work too and contribute to the household.
Samantha began sending my mother out to work and then made her do all the housekeeping when she came home. It seemed the massive debt my brother accumulated eventually forced them to sell the house. I learned about this when my brother, who somehow got this information, suddenly visited my house and said,
I'm getting divorced from her and plan to place Mom somewhere else. Can you let her stay here temporarily?
The emotions that had been building inside me exploded. Who gave you the right to decide all this on your own? My brother, who had never seen me act like this before, looked shocked and tried to run away. Driven by the heat of the moment, I grabbed him and forcefully pulled on his collar, saying, I can't forgive you for using people and running away when things get tough. It's only natural that you should solve your own problems. I emotionally conveyed this to him, pushing him hard against the wall. After that, John leaned against the wall, looking at me with a mix of shock and fear. I recalled the words my dad once said.
To strangers, John might appear charming at first glance, but he has many flaws in his character. If I don't guide him properly, he'll never straighten out.
My father would say this with a worried look from time to time. As it turned out, Dad's concerns became a reality, and John faced many difficult situations in his life. However, having endured the behaviors and bullying of my mom and John since childhood, I could only see John's current situation as getting what he deserved. It was a poignant moment, realizing that those who look down on others might one day find themselves on the receiving end of that very gaze.
Listen to me.
His faint voice reached my ears from behind. However, I continued walking without paying any attention to his words, firm in my decision. At that moment, I decided to refresh my relationship with my family. I moved away from the security of my remote job and started looking for work outside. Leveraging my love for comics that I've been reading since childhood, I managed to join a collaborative comic company that has gained a lot of attention in recent years. My team consisted of 6 members. They were all kind and taught me the latest drawing techniques and how to use modern tools. It was a learning-rich environment. Compared to working alone, there's support and empathy within a team. At 28, I could feel the warmth and joy from work. During our work, my colleagues often praised me for the sense of my work, its precision, and my sincerity. Gradually, this became my confidence booster and helped me become more extroverted. I smiled more and naturally, I began to communicate more with people. Actually, I've always been a cheerful person with a childlike side and I loved cracking little jokes. I regained my true self and it was well received by the people around me. Now, I have a great relationship with the original author of the stories. We brainstorm ideas together and have a lot of fun laughing and spending time together. Our relationship with the author went beyond professional, and now we're starting a new chapter together. We are creating a collaborative comic, and we hope it will be well received and become a big hit among the readers. When we talk passionately about such a future, I feel as if my dad is watching over us from far away, sharing in our joy. My heart is filled with happiness.